Welcome to a self-published author's diary. I am Elodie Novodatsky. I write about first times, second chances, things that scare the crap out of me, and things that make me laugh out loud. I'll be speaking with you and sharing my adventures in self-publishing, the behind the scenes of writing, and the business side of it. And before we get started today, a small message from our sponsor, Anchor. Thanks for listening. Hello. Is it me you're looking for? I almost sang those words, and my husband would confirm that it would have been a very bad idea for me to sing them. I am recording this episode on Monday, May 23rd. I was hoping to do it yesterday, but then I decided to write one more Vela episode, and I'll explain why later in the episode. And since I added something to my plate yesterday, I decided to reorganize my to-do list and move the podcast recording to Monday, today. Plato the dog is on the couch next to me as I'm recording this. He's wearing a cone on and off today around his neck. And let me tell you, he's not a fan. It's the first time he's wearing one. It's to help him not scratch, lick, or bite his paw. I'm sure there's a writing metaphor there somewhere, the way he's trying to take it off, even though it's supposed to help him. I'm sure there's something. So let's see. What am I currently reading, listening to, and watching right now? I'm listening to the audiobook of Sadie by Courtney Summers. I had started reading the book, I think when I was still in treatment. And someone had told me that the audiobook listening experience for Sadie was really quite something. So I borrowed it from the library, and it is really, really, really good. The story is, it's a missing girl on a journey of revenge, a serial-like podcast following the clues she's left behind, and an ending you won't be able to stop talking about. The audiobook has an entire cast of narrators, and it definitely captured my attention. It's really just really, really good. When it comes to TV shows, we finished watching Ozark the other day on Friday, I think. And I don't want to spoil the ending, so I'll just say that after watching the last episode, I may have gone down a Reddit hole or a Reddit rabbit hole about what other ending writers could have come up with and what other people were saying about the ending. And there's so much to say. And it's not like I don't understand the ending or why the ending is what it is, but I do have a few questions. I love this show, and what a ride it has been, right? If you have been watching that since season 1, again, I won't go into details because I don't want to give any spoilers. Talking about Netflix show, I still do dream about my Gavert City series becoming a Netflix show or a Lifetime movie. Maybe one day, right? So today I did check. It's not the first time, but it's the first time I'm talking about it, that I checked how a writer could contact Lifetime and try to pitch, the manuscript to them. On the Lifetime website, it says, where can I send a script or story idea that I would like to submit? The answer, while we genuinely appreciate your interest and desire to share your project or story with us, as is customary throughout the entertainment industry, it is the policy of Lifetime not to accept or review any unsolicited material received from individuals who are not represented by agents or attorneys known to Lifetime, or from production companies Lifetime is not familiar with. As we are certain you can appreciate, the policy exists to protect both you and Lifetime. So I guess I should not send them my manuscript. And I was also Googling agents for film rights or TV rights. And I found an interesting part on the Lisa Dawson's Associates website. They note when it comes to literary film agents, that's a quote from their website. So there are several agents but the fact is that most books are discovered by film people almost accidentally. And for some reason, these accidents seem to disproportionately involve airplanes or children or college roommates. A producer slips into first class and asks his seatmate what she's reading. A producer falls in love with a middle grade series when he reads it to his 9-year-old daughter. The college roommate of the author is now working at a studio. Yes, of course, it doesn't happen this way all the time. But what your agents want you to know is that this is the most unpredictable aspect of the publishing business, and that she has very little control over whether Hollywood or Netflix will decide whether to acquire your novel. So I found that quite interesting that on that particular website, it was already mentioned that, it is an unpredictable aspect of the publishing business.
They do have a relationship with a variety of film agents, again from their website. They say who are committed to representing the dramatic rights of our clients' books. These major Hollywood agencies include Creative Artists Agency, Ken Sherman and Associates, and others. So they do have relationships with film agents, and other agencies also note. So, for example, Writers House also has on their website saying, our media licensing department is run by executive director of global licensing. So they have information. And then they also say, we have valued relationships with all of the books to film agents and managers in the industry, as well as vast network of entertainment lawyers. They only handle film TV rights for books already represented by Writers House literary agents. They do not accept film TV submissions. So that's something that maybe at some point I would look more into to see if are there out there film TV agents that accept submissions without being represented by a literary agent. I do need to do more research about that.
There is also an article in the Los Angeles Times called Meet 8 Industry Players Behind Hollywood's Book Adaptation Boom. I will link to that article into the episode's description in case you're interested. So if Fear Me, Fear Me Not were to become super successful, or if someone working at Lifetime or Netflix, or maybe one of those industry players, happens to read it, then maybe it will be turned into a TV show or a movie. But otherwise, since it isn't a goal of mine, but it's more like one of those, it would be so cool dreams. I'm going to continue working on my writing career without Lifetime or Netflix at the moment. But if you are working at Lifetime or Netflix or know somebody who works there and have read Fear Me, Fear Me Not, please don't hesitate to pass on the book to them and tell them how much you loved it. So talking about my career, Dear Diary, this week it's all about the ups and downs of self-publishing. Well, at least about the ups and downs from last week. Last week, I heard the words every romance author wants to hear, and then my Vela story lost its crown before getting a crown again within 24 hours. I'm still waiting to know what the bonus for April will be when it comes to Kindle Vela, and I have started to work on the Leftover Bride Christmas in July promo.
And Eloisa James, I'm a big fan of her work, her Regency novels. I love them. And she just joined one of the Facebook author groups that I'm part of. And I'm trying very hard not to fangirl. Like, she posted something and I'm wondering, like, do I tell her that I love her work? Do I just, like, fangirl? I don't know. Like that. I'm like that. All those words that I cannot say. So that's another up for me this week right now.
And very exciting news. I have my very first voicemail on this podcast, which I will play towards the end of this episode as I share the ups that other authors have shared with me on TikTok. Last week, I went to walk Plato the dog, who at the time was not wearing a cone. And as I was going around the block, at some point, there was like a big dog that started racing towards us. And both Plato and I stood frozen in time. Like Plato loves to bark, and he did not make a sound. I managed to lift him up as the dog was rushing towards us. And as I lifted him up, he slid out of his harness. You need to understand that Plato is a beagle, and while he is not, he doesn't like when it's too cold, and he doesn't like when it's too hot, and he doesn't like the rain, and he doesn't like the snow. He also will run away if he smells something interesting. Like I even see it, or we even notice it in our yard. If he smells something, like we used to have bunnies going around in our yard, and if he smelled one of them or even saw one, he would just not let go of the scent if we didn't have a fence around the house. And sometimes when we're walking him, he will suddenly have this bay, like beagles bay. And if he smells something, he's going to start trying to sprint after it. He's always on a leash. He's never off leash. And so when he slid out of the harness, I was like, oh my God, this is not happening. I put myself almost on top of him to prevent him from running away. And I think it also stopped the other dog because he seemed to be pretty respectful of people. And the owner were very apologetic. They really didn't do it. It was not like they were walking their dogs off leash. The dog just went around behind, I think, the teenager when he was leaving. And then both he and his mom were very, very apologetic. My heart was just beating super, like it was pounding as I managed to put the harness back on, and then we left. And so it was pretty stressful. And then I remember it was a day where I also could not find another document. I had like written story ideas. And that was one of the days where I was trying on, the AI. I wanted to see how it worked. I wanted to try it out so I could talk to you also about it with more knowledge and with more practice and everything. And I wanted to try it with the story idea that I had years ago. And I wanted to see what they came up with as a paragraph. And I could no longer find that document where I had kept that story idea. So it was frustrating. I was trying to find it. So between, the little incident in the morning, then not being able to find that document that I was looking for, which, by the way, I really need a better documentation system. Like, I know I need to be better about my files. So that's something that I need to work on. And I will let you know if I manage to find a system that really works for me, especially when it comes to naming manuscript. I need to also be better at deleting drafts. Once I have a final draft, once I have something that is published, like, I should probably not keep all the other drafts, but it's very stressful for me to delete something because I'm always like, what if that's the one that I need to have? So the filing system is really something that I need to look more into. Another task I had to do during that day was to call our insurance because I was trying to switch our car insurance. And after spending, I don't know, probably 30, 35, maybe 40 minutes on the different websites between the website that I wanted to get the insurance from and the one that I wanted to cancel. The one that I wanted to cancel ended up having the message, oh, you need to call the insurance to finalize the transaction. So I said, great. So I called them. The guy was very nice. The insurance agent was very kind. He was very polite, was just like, oh, let me see if we can at least, match. I was like, well, I don't really have the time. How long is that going to take? Well, no, maybe we're going to be able to give you a better price than our competitor. Like, we really want to keep you as customers. I just have a few questions for you. And he arrived at the question, so what do you do for a living? What is your job title? And I said, author. His next question was, oh, what kind of authors? What do you write? I did not hesitate to answer. And I said, oh, I write romance novels. And then there was a pause. And you know the type of pause I'm talking about, the one where thousands of answers flash through your mind. Like, what is that person going to say? Because sometimes the answers when you're telling somebody that you write romance novels, they can get quite interesting. But no, his answer just completely caught me off guard. He's like, oh wow, you're spreading happiness to the world. Let me repeat that. You are spreading happiness to the world. I mean, how amazing is this? And like with those words, he definitely spread happiness too, because I was just overjoyed. I was just so touched. And I was also it was such a nice reminder that the work that I'm doing and the words that I'm writing, and that if you're a romance writer, the happily ever after or the happily for now endings that you give your characters, they do spread joy to the world. They do spread happiness to the world. And so that's just a reminder. And even if whatever genre you write, you are distracting somebody. So yeah, so it was definitely one of the ups of my self-publishing career last week. One of the downs was that I had been so excited to have a crown on Kindle Vella. As you know, Kindle Vella is a serialized fiction platform, which is on Kindle, which is on Amazon. And you can read it on the browser on Amazon, or you can also read it in Kindle, in the Kindle app. But I had one of my stories who had a crown for about 3 weeks. And having a crown means that readers have given you a fave. Readers get one fave, like one favorite, to give one story per week if they are using tokens that they have purchased to read the stories. And so that meant that people had been giving me their faves, their tokens, their basically giving my story crowns. And if you have a certain amount of crowns, and again, since it's Amazon, I don't know how many crowns I have. I don't know how many crowns it takes to actually have a crown show up on your story and become part of the top 250 favorite stories on the platform. But I had a crown. Well, not I. One of my stories had a crown, and it had been in the top 250 for about 3 weeks. And so on Friday, I go to release an episode, which is what I do. I release at least one episode a week for both of my stories, so 2 episodes per week. But for that one story, the episode usually releases on Friday. That's usually my goal. And as part of the story, you can have author notes. And in that author note, I had added, wow, thank you so much. Every time I see that crown, I'm so excited. Something along those lines. I'm just so grateful that, you gave my story, or that you gave my story a favorite. And, I was just very enthusiastic in my author's note about that crown. As soon as the episode publishes, well, I no longer have a crown. The story no longer has a crown. So I had just gushed about having a crown on the story, and yeah, publish it, and the crown is gone. And that also means that the story is no longer in the top 250. And that, I think it also means that, when you have a crown on your story, it plays a role in how much bonus you get. I have no idea. Again, I'm waiting for the April bonus. In April, I don't think the story had a crown. It started in May, so that I would find out how much bonus I'm getting for this month, next month at the end of June. But still, I know it's part of the calculation that they make. The crown is one of the elements that they're looking at. But I didn't have it anymore. And that just made me kind of I was a bit disappointed, because having had one on that story for 3 weeks, having just gushed about it in the author's note, and then also knowing that it may have meant that some readers, were not as excited about the story anymore. Or maybe they found, there are plenty of stories on Kindle Vella. Maybe for that week they had found stories that they liked better, that they enjoyed better. Or maybe they had not even read my story that week. There are a lot of different possibilities, but it was still kind of a down for the week, because again, I had just been so excited about it, and then it went away. And so I decided that I was going to publish, and I'm looping back to the very beginning when I mentioned that I'm recording this on Monday instead of Sunday, is because on Sunday I ended up getting up at 5:30, not on purpose. I don't even think I can blame Plato on that one. I was just awake at 5:30, and I had wanted to get up around 6:30 on Sunday to start working on the Kindle Vella episode, so I would publish one episode on Sunday, because readers get that one favorite that they can give, which is basically one crown. They can give it to a story between Sunday to Saturday, and so it kind of resets on Saturday at midnight. And I was just thinking, okay, the episode actually published on Saturday. The last one that I had wanted to publish on Friday, I submitted it on Friday, but it published on Saturday. I'm like, okay, well, if people read it on Saturday, they may have already given their one favorite to one story. So what if I publish again on Sunday so that it's fresher in their minds? And then maybe I can ask as a question, hey, have you already given a crown to this story? Just out of curiosity. And the options that they had were, yes, this week. No, not this week yet. Not yet. And what is a crown? Because sometimes I also think because it's called faves or favorite, that people may not know. I published it on Sunday. I managed to write it. I edited it. I had started writing it on Saturday and then I finished on Sunday. So I had written quite a bit on Saturday afternoon, but I still needed to, revise it and edit it and reread it and make sure that it's going the way it's supposed to go in terms of like the story flow and everything. I had to check a few things. I am very happy with this episode. I submitted it on Sunday. It got published on Sunday. And so far, I have my crown back. I don't know if I got my crown back really because of that episode that I published on Sunday, or if there were other things at play. Like I had to change the category too because there was, Amazon had put me into another category and I had to change that back. So maybe that was part of that. I'm not quite sure. But the story has a crown again. It might lose it, which I'm aware of, but right now it has it. So it was an ups and down and up for last week in terms of self-publishing. And on TikTok, I asked self-published authors to share their ups from April. And it was so nice to read authors celebrating milestones, whatever milestones they had chosen to celebrate. But it was very, very nice to read those answers. And again, I also got my very first voicemail from Priya, an author on TikTok, because I asked authors if I could share their answers, and then I had also let them know, like a few of them. I did not ask everybody because I got quite a few answers. So I asked a few people and then I mentioned like, hey, if you want, you can also record your answer for my podcast. Priya did. So I will start with her answer and then I will let you know what other answers I got for that particular celebration of authors' yay moment, as I called them.
Hi, Elodie. This is Priya Dodi, and you reached out on a thread about sharing your self-published author's yay moment. So here's mine. May 10th, I published Finding Warrior Pose on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. It hit top 5 in its category of Asian American fiction on Kindle, which was a yay moment for me. Thanks again. Bye.
Priya, thank you again so much for sharing your answer. Here are a few other ones from other authors on that post. So at Jen Loves Books, she's an author of YA and NA romance. And she said that she got 3 pre-orders on her June release. Then Keegan, whose handle is Keegana Shlee Live, said that hers has been writing and posting every weekday on Vella. I asked her how many words her episodes were, and her episodes run between 600 and 1,200 words. Then Lynn Kellin said, delighting in adding more tension with a sentence. And don't you love when that happens? When you're adding one sentence, just one sentence, and you're able to add more tension to a scene? I love when that happens. I had to share it. And then Rihanna Burwell said, someone said that her book reminded them of Colleen Hoover, which is a pretty nice compliment, if you ask me. And again, there are so many answers to that post about the yay self-publishing moment from April. I will try to do that more often on TikTok and also on Instagram, asking authors to share their ups and downs when it comes to self-publishing, and also maybe words of encouragement for everybody, what has worked for them, what has not. And I'll share that with all of you if they're okay with it. And they might even leave more voicemail. And if you are listening to this and if you would like to share your up or your down in self-publishing or in publishing within the last few months, the last year, the last week, from yesterday, don't hesitate to leave me a voicemail, and the link is in this episode's description. And thank you so much for listening. And
Priya, thank you again so much for leaving a voicemail. I am so grateful, and it was so nice to hear from you. So don't hesitate to leave me another one. And as always, thank you so much for listening. If you have a moment, don't hesitate to rate, subscribe, share with your friend. And if you're a writer, happy writing, and to everyone, happy reading.